Okay, what I'm going to do right now is just give you a little demo of how I use the audio to help me figure out what's going on in my animation and to set up my animation. So for this slide, I've already set up my slides according to where I want them to break in terms of the audio. So I have adjusted the slide from the default of 10 seconds to be 12 seconds. This gives us two questions that we're going to want to animate. This is the part of my video where I'm asking everyday scientific questions. One about whether or not you can get your dog to do better tricks with tastier treats, and the other one's about whether or not you can grow flowers inside with a special bulb compared to outside with the sun. I've listened to the audio already, and when you use this red triangle here, shows you where you are in terms of the animation and the audio. So you can play the audio in order to hear when key things happen. I've already listened and I know I start question 2 at about second 6. And this is the question about growing flowers with special bulbs. So I'm going to add in a flower, and it by default enters the flower where the cursor was, where that red triangle was when I asked it to be placed. So what I'm going to do is move this flower to where I want it to be. I'm just going to make it a little larger, make it a little more interesting. And then I'm going to add in, probably just a second or two later, and this has already moved ahead for me, so probably let's try a second and a half later, we're going to add a light bulb. And so I'm looking over here, I see a light bulb here. So I'm going to put that in here, and that's going to be what's growing this flower. And if I don't like the animation, what I can do is take off the animation. So I can either here, I can say no animation or only do it one time, which sometimes I like because sometimes when it keeps jumping around it's a little bit distracting. Or you can just keep having it animate over and over. Those are 3 options you can get here in the animation settings for that object. So I'm going to have it play once. I don't want it to jump out of the screen, so I'm going to keep it about there. And then what I'm going to do is I know at about the second 10, so I'm going to go up to second 10. I start talking about comparing that to flowers grown by sunshine. So I'm going to add in another flower, which you see all the objects that I've so far added to this slide appear down here at the bottom, and it tells me the length of when they appear. It can be a little tricky for you to think about adjusting each of those separately. So if I want to change whether or not 2 flowers appear at the same time, I can't do that right here because right now I'm only working on the selected object. I would need to modify their timeline such as they are now. So this first flower appears from second 6 to second 12. If I want them to overlap, I need to make sure that this second flower, now that's selected, overlaps in that timeline. So this new flower will appear at second 10 and stay to the end of the slide as well. So that way I know that they're going to overlap. I'm going to add my sunshine as well, and probably just have it appear like a half second later. So I'm adding in the sunshine over here for this flower. Make the sunshine maybe a little bit bigger. This one, the animation's not very distracting, so I'm just going to leave that animation on. And I'm going to save, because I want to keep saving continuously just in case. And then what I can do is go back to the beginning and start playing my overall animation with the audio to see how it all lines up, and then I can make adjustments. So one of the things that I noticed, and it goes on to the next slide, so just pause it and go back to the slide you were working on. For example, I want the boy and the dog to disappear at about the same time. The dog doesn't disappear till about second 4, so I will make the boy stay longer. These little transitions here tell you what will happen to get the person, or doesn't always have to be a person, but to get the animation in or out. So you can pop them in and out, or they just kind of pop. You can fade them in and out. You can have them move up, down, or right or left. That's often a nice thing for people and animals and bees and insects, things that would want to move. That's how you can get movement through the screen, is have them to move right and left as their exit, and then put a new one in where you'd want it to have wound up. Okay, so that's my short little tip, set of tips for today. I know this is a little bit longer, but hopefully this gives you a sense of how to use the tools in a basic way to animate your audio.